welcome to Tech Talks, the People and Planet podcast. Today on the show, I'm joined by Cindy Bauer. Cindy, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great, Lee. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. So Cindy, you are the CEO and founder of Coordinista, which is all about field healthcare, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Coordinista is all about optimizing decentralized care delivery in the field, and I know that we're going to break that down and what that means here in the podcast.
For sure.
So, yeah,
for sure. So why don't you tell us the problem here? So what are you addressing, and what's the solution? What's the mission that you guys are on?
Yeah, so I was inspired, first of all, with Coordinista as a transitions of care nurse case manager for Medicare, Medicaid population. And when I was serving that population, I saw on one hand the patients that were being readmitted to the hospital all the time because they didn't get the care that they needed after discharge. And on the other hand, we had nurses and social workers who wanted to give them that care, but faced all of these barriers in the field and reaching them. And so for your listeners who might not be care managers and understand what some of those barriers are, let me just share a little bit of background on that. So first of all, to help people understand, when you're talking about doing care in the field, there's two approaches that you can take. One is a centralized dispatch method, and that's where you have, like, picture an air traffic controller, one person who knows where all the patients are and what they need, and all the nurses, and they say, hey, you're going here, and they decide where everybody goes. And there are a lot of solutions on the market for that. But the other method that care and case managers more often use is a decentralized approach. And this is where you have a case manager that has a responsibility for a caseload of patients. It could be 25, it could be 350, which is what mine was, depending on the different market that you're looking at. And so it's their responsibility to create their calendars and schedules for that caseload, collaborating with their patients. And so that's where we're focused on and is the decentralized care approach. And so the barriers or the issues with that approach is that clinicians are forced to use and stuck using 5 or more different siloed systems to manage their caseloads because the information they need are all found in different places. So you'd have like patient information maybe in the EMR, the calendar in another system, routing and navigation in another system, communications with their admin on scheduling in another system, mileage tracking, and you get the picture. And they're still using most of them notebooks and Excel spreadsheets to manage your caseload. So anyway, all that being said, as you can imagine, it leads to frustration and burnout, delay in information flow, so delay in care, 125 million hours wasted every year in the field. And also then, because the delay in care, you have these readmissions that are happening that could be prevented by people getting the timely care that they need. So Coordinista's mission and all of that is to overcome these barriers between the patient and the clinician in the field so that people can receive the care that they need in a timely and personalized way.
Absolutely. And do you know what? We do this show and I speak to people in similar positions to yourself all the time, and everyone is trying to tackle the same problem of overworked, stressed, burnt out healthcare workers, whether it's in the UK where I am or in the US where you are. The problem is the same, and it's such an important mission, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, especially like right now we have a nursing shortage in general. We have this aging population that is growing, that's going to need more care. And at the same time, we have a shortage of clinicians, nurses, physicians. And we really have to see, how are we going to align this? And we can't afford to have people wasting their time on unnecessary driving or admin.
So what's the product itself then? Can you unwrap that for our listeners, please?
Yeah, so the way Coordinista overcomes these barriers between the patients and the clinicians is by we've created this all-in-one field care management platform that optimizes decentralized delivery at both the team level, the upper team level, and the individual clinician level. And so what I mean by that is at the team level where those caseloads are being managed, we provide proprietary logic and mapping to optimize the overall team, saving mileage and time and that at that level. And we also track the services that are being performed in the field to make sure that they're being done in compliance in quality, time, and deadlines. But then at the individual level, our mobile app empowers the clinicians to optimize their own schedules and their own calendars with intelligent scheduling, mapping, routing, navigating, caseload information, all in one very clinician-friendly place.
Yeah.
Even hospital notifications in the field to speed up response time for those patients. And so the beauty of when you pull all this information into one place, we've created a network effect that now enables us to leverage this data for smarter intelligence, for best practices in the field to lead to the best health outcomes for patients. And so what does this mean? So like, okay, you have all this great stuff. What does it actually come down to? Well, 100% of care managers that are surveyed, that we've surveyed, have said that Coordinista would save them 1 to 2 hours every day. That is a full day a week of time that can now be spent with patients. And then at the provider level, for those providers who are providing case management and care management on a fee-for-service basis, they can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars now by increasing productivity using Coordinista. And then we also track the top 10 readmission diagnoses that are impacted by care management. So health plans that are on a capitated model, not only will they realize operational savings by using Coordinista, but also up to $1 million per 10,000 Medicare beneficiaries in reduction of readmissions.
Unbelievable. Okay, so I mean that's such an efficient product as well, isn't it? Because it's all just encapsulated in one mobile application. You've lived and breathed this, I think, haven't you, in terms of the problem as well as the solution. Share a little bit more about your background. How did you arrive at founding the business?
Yeah, so my background is in nursing. However, I spent about 6 years using technology for decentralized field deployment for ballot initiatives and campaigns. So sending volunteers out into the field. And so when I was recruited into care management and came back into that for a provider who was using a decentralized approach, we didn't have any of the same technology as nurses that I had just been using in the other industry. And so I was pretty surprised by that. I felt like we were all in the dark, wasting a lot of time. But I applied what I knew from my time in the field and ended up leading the entire company in all performance for transitions of care, including being able to reduce readmissions by over 30%. And that's why when I keep bringing that part up, to me, that is what's so important, is really being able to provide people the care they need to help them have better health outcomes. So it was such a significant thing that the CCO and VP medical director flew in from California to spend time with me in my car, having me drive them around to they're saying, what are you doing that so differently? So that was fun. And they decided they wanted to take this model company wide. But then the vendor we were contracting for here in Michigan was acquired. So they lost that contract in Michigan, and 150 of us lost our jobs, including myself. And I was going to start a care management company because I'd figured out a way that it could be done better. But I searched and searched, Lee, and I couldn't find the technology I would want my nurses to use and that I knew they needed to do what I did out there anywhere. And so that's when I decided we needed the technology for the nurses, and I started Coordinista.
So it's such an interesting backstory, isn't it? And I think you started, what was it, just over 4 years ago now?
Yeah, about 4.5 years ago.
4.5 years ago. I'm interested, and I speak to lots of founders about this. What challenges have you faced along those ways? I mean, of course, there's been some huge worldwide challenges, but I'm super interested to learn how you've navigated those.
Yeah, well, first of all, even though I do have deep understanding and knowledge of what field deployment is and decentralized, deployment, and even as a nurse providing care to this targeted population in the field, I didn't have experience developing software. And so that ended up leading to two things that I had to do. One is build a great experienced team around me who did have that experience that we needed. Love my team, and so that's been a great experience for us. But then the other thing, it really forced me into being very involved in the product from early on. And so as a product owner in the product development and working with this team. And so what that's actually led to is a very clinician-led product, which is a differentiator for us actually in the market. So that I believe is why we have such a good, strong product market fit. And then we get the feedback that we do about being clinician friendly and intuitive and well thought out. So that was one challenge. And the second challenge, I mean, in healthcare, it's a highly regulated industry to build in. So again, going back to that team, right from the get-go, we've had just an awesome director of compliance on the team. And we have made sure to keep HIPAA and security and all of those different things top of mind from the beginning. I think, which is going to help us to like later on as we scale. And then the third thing, like any startup, we've had to bootstrap to MVP. So we've done that. And that has, really caused us to look at every dollar and every milestone and make sure they're well thought out. And in order to do that, I leaned on my own experience running my own campaign. So I had experience with that personally, but then also, leaned on the team who's had experience with that as well. So the challenges, what's interesting about the challenges, and I'm sure this is for other startups too, is that they can sometimes really end up being positives and differentiators. Yeah, along the way.
Absolutely. So the team at the moment then, are they in-house or are they consultants? How does that work?
We're all remote. And so, excuse me, we have some here in Michigan, Georgia, Florida, just in different states and that. So that's been really fun too. New York and others.
How do you manage that? Do you find that that's the, when we talked previously about you scaling in the future, would you consider that as the way to scale in the future in terms of just keeping it US remote?
I think remote can give you some advantages of giving you more access to team members with the experience that you're really looking for or needing. So I do love that about remote. And I think that, that's been an advantage for a lot of companies since COVID and we've, look, you and I are talking right now too. It gives you access to network and all of that. Yeah, but I do think that there's, something to be said about when you can work closely together, or how do you even, create that remote experience in a way that you're still in communication and working closely together. And so that culture of that is what we've tried to instill here in the beginning at Coordinista.
Like it. So, we touched on it then. What comes next? Anything exciting that you can share? I believe that you're looking at raising as well.
Yeah, so we've actually been fortunate to have some really awesome partners early on. Simpulse, which is one of them, they're a global partner who has been a strong contributor to our fast-growing pipeline. And so we have a couple, we'll continue to work with additional partners here in the future as well. And we're excited to begin onboarding our proof of concept with Northbound Physical Therapy and Wellness. So that's starting. And then we plan to do our initial pilots this quarter. So we've been a lot in the development mode and now moving into launch mode, Lee. And so that's super exciting. Yeah. And with that, as you know, becomes, now additional raises and financing to move into the market and then to scale.
What's the strategy then? What's the go-to-market strategy?
So what's interesting about Coordinista, and again, another differentiator that sets us apart is Coordinista is a platform because we're focused on the decentralized method of field deployment. that's the common denominator of the market that
Yeah.
we're serving. So that cuts across a number of verticals in healthcare. So you can think home health, hospice, even primary care deployment, physical therapy, occupational therapy, case managers, and like workers' comp and self-insured employers and those kind of things. So we've actually started getting traction early all across that, and all across those different markets, and also within enterprise types of organizations. So go-to-market strategy is starting with those smaller 20 to 25 case managers on a provider team, and then leading into those enterprise markets over the next year.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I look forward to doing a follow-up podcast in 6 to 12 months' time and see where you guys are then. But for now, Cindy, it's all we've got time for. I really enjoyed learning about Coordinista. Good luck for the future. Cindy Bauer, thank you.
Thank you, Lee. It's been awesome being on your show.
Thank you.